Greetings, fellow moviegoers, and welcome to Movie Central, the place to talk about movies, TV shows based on movies, toys based on movies, games based on movies, and rides based on movies. I'm your host, Mr. CCS, and these are my pets, George the Gorilla, Carl the Dolphin, and Frank the Sea Turtle. I hope each of you had a pleasant holiday. I know I certainly did. However, that's not important. What's important right now is getting back into the swing of things for 2 weeks before I take another break for the Christmas season. Or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa seasons if you don't celebrate Christmas. Anyways, today we're going to be taking a look about a film that's actually a fan favorite in regards to video game adaptations and is also a surprising box office hit. However, before we can do that, we're going to be talking about the franchise from which this crazy film was based, Tomb Raider. Spanning nearly 30 years with several games in its library, the Tomb Raider series is one of the most iconic game series in recent history. The franchise, which involves several hair-raising adventures all across the globe, debuted in 1996 and has gone strong ever since. The titular Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, has also been regarded as one of the most iconic video game protagonists of all time. So, with all of this popularity, you would believe that it would make for a pretty interesting big screen adaptation. And you'd be right. Enter Simon West, director of Con Air, who was brought on to direct, and Angelina Jolie, an actress famous for several romance films of the late 1990s and early 2000s. Was set to play Lara Croft. How did it fare? Well, surprisingly well. Despite very negative critical reception, the film was a box office success, grossing over $200 million worldwide. Now, the world of games would make for an excellent TV series, but seeing as how bringing a video game to life onto the screen was new at the time, it wouldn't have made sense to make an expensive show. However, it's been nearly 25 years since this movie came out, and I wonder how well it's held up. Let's find out today. This is the 2001 video game adventure film, Lara Croft Tomb Raider. A highly powerful artifact known only as the Triangle of Life, known to be what keeps time and space in balance, is being hunted by the mysterious Illuminati. The hunt being led by Manfred Powell, a high-ranking member of the cult, played by Ian Glenn. Wanting to put a stop to the threat, explorer and the titular Tomb Raider herself, Lara Croft, played by Angelina Jolie, with the help of her tech expert Bryce, played by Noah Taylor, and her butler Hillary, played by Chris Berry, as well as fellow Tomb Raider Alex West, played by Daniel future James Bond Craig, to put a stop to the dastardly plot and also deal with several fantastical threats along the way. So, if you're someone like me, you appreciate that the Tomb Raider games are trying to establish their own lore with several ancient deities and religions tied into the sprawling story. If you're also someone like me, you'll know that Indiana Jones is the gold standard for adventure movies, and compared to those films, this film really misses the mark. However, it is really fun. One of the biggest problems with half of the movies I've reviewed this season is that they don't feel fun enough, save for Super Mario Bros., Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat. Lara Croft Tomb Raider is just a fun little ride with a very paper-thin plot, but it strangely works. Now, of course, the games have better storytelling over the course of several hours, and this film's 100-minute runtime doesn't even scratch the surface of how deep the rabbit hole goes for this series, which is why it was a smart move to make it a TV series. However, I cannot stress this enough. This movie is pure fun from beginning to end, and I thoroughly enjoyed the adrenaline rush I got. So, let me explain my thoughts here, and do my best to remain professional. So, Lara Croft, one of the most iconic video game protagonists of all time, and even one of the most iconic female characters of all time. How well did Angelina Jolie capture that? Well, surprisingly, she nails the spunk, agility, and skill of the original character pretty well. I don't think I need to say much else about that. While she's not my ideal choice, she did do surprisingly well considering her previous work. Now, of course, let's address the elephant in the room, the fan service. It's not Michael Bay levels of bad, but maybe that shower scene didn't have to be in the movie, guys. Yeah, that's right. You thought I was gonna comment on the clothing. I didn't. What's it to ya? I like the clothing. It's not the blue tank top and khaki shorts from the original game, but it still gets the vibe right. I have no problems with that. The problem I do have is that shower scene, which is way too much. Lara Croft was a decent protagonist that served the movie pretty well, overall. Now, let's talk about her friends, Bryce and Hillary. For two characters that were made up for this film, because Lara is on her own in the actual games, they do have personality and are very interesting enough. Hillary being unfazed by Lara's antics in her home was pretty funny, and Bryce's tech-savvy and very goofy demeanor actually worked quite well. I got a few chuckles. Enough said. Alright, moving on to Alex. While it was quite distracting to see Daniel Craig deliver a performance in an American accent, considering the fact that he is James Bond. And I will talk about those movies one of these days. I thought it was cool to see him play an anti-hero for once, although Benoit Blanc is also kind of that as well. Also, I question why they pulled the fan service bit with him too, as he also has a shower scene late into the movie. Once is bad enough, but the fact that they do it twice really annoys me. Whatever, he was a cool addition. Now, the villain. Powell is not a great villain, but he is serviceable. His plan is generic, but he's supposed to be like Rene Belloc or Walter Donovan from Indiana Jones, which kinda works. That said, he's still not a great villain, and my least favorite main character in the whole movie. Anyways, moving on. Oh, John Voight, Angelina Jolie's actual father, plays Lord Croft in this, and the scene with the two of them was pretty sweet. That's about it. Now, let's move on to the effects and production design. The film was actually shot on location in Cambodia for a few scenes, and that was really cool. The Top Ram Temple served as the backdrop for one of the major sequences where the bad guys and Lara are trying to find part of the triangle and are attacked by the statues of the temple, which was my favorite action sequence in the whole movie. It was really cool to see this actual temple being used for a movie on this scale. I also think that the set for Lara's house and the robot look really cool too. Now the CGI is pretty dated, which is unfortunate considering the movie's $115 million budget. But I can let that slide since this was a 2001 movie, although Lord of the Rings came out the same year. Whatever, moving on. Now, the music was composed of remixes of several songs, kind of like Mortal Kombat, but I'll be honest, hearing an original score would have made more sense to me, seeing as how this is an adventure movie, and hearing cool music as Lara took down her foes or something epic happens on screen would have had a much better impact, but that's probably just me. Moving on to the action, I really liked that first scene with the robot, the house attack scene, and the battle in the temple as I stated earlier. That's all I really have to say. I'm sorry if I seem a little disorganized and that this review was super short, but this is one of those movies that I don't have that much to say on. Lara Croft Tomb Raider is a decent movie with some problems such as some forced fan service, a bare-bones script, and dated effects, but it still has a ton of fun stuff too, and that's what matters most. I recommend you watch this if you're looking for a good time, or just want something other than Indiana Jones, even if it is still the best. I give this one a 7 out of 10. Not the worst, not the best, but okay. So, it was unexpected that I'm going to enjoy this one, but I'm ultimately glad I did because I actually have a lot to look forward to in regards to its sequel. So stay tuned for that review, which will be out in January, while next week's review will be of another popular video game franchise movie. Until then, and with that said, my name is Mr. CCS, this is Movie Central, and that, my friends, is a wrap. See you next week.